I'm like, look, I'm working hard so they can have more than I did. So I don't want to take that away from them, but I just want them to be grateful and to sort of know the value of things. So I think it's very possible, but a lot of it is, are you grateful? Do you take things for granted? How do you manage when you have some extra funds, right? Because I'm big on, we have to lead by example. So if I'm, throwing money away, my kids are gonna learn from what I do, not from what I say.
Today's guest is someone who represents the real Las Vegas. Not the lights and the glamour, but the relationships, the work ethic, the strategy and the heart that keeps this city alive. He's an on-premise manager for Diageo, meaning that he has his hands on some of the most powerful alcohol brands on the planet, and he operates inside some of the most influential venues on the Strip. He's a connector, he's a builder, and a quiet force behind the business of nightlife. But beyond the industry, he's a devoted father, a loyal partner, a hustler who built everything through consistency and character, and someone who carries both corporate discipline and entrepreneurial fire. This is a man who understands people, understands culture, understands what it really takes to create opportunity in one of the most competitive cities in the world. I'd like to welcome Samuel.
Thank you so much. That's so kind. That's so kind. Thank you.
It's crazy because I've known about you for a while just through mutual friends and stuff.
Oh yeah.
And you're somebody that I wanted to sit down with for a while. I just seen it. I think we spoke something closer to the Rise Festival.
Yeah.
Just because I see parts of your life, I know the business that you're in, but just the way you are as a father and stuff. And I've just become a father just 1 year ago. And so just kind of seeing how you balance these relationships, because you share it all through social media, you did, right?
Yeah.
So it's really nice to see. And that's one of the things, how was your childhood to begin with? What were the opportunities? Obviously there's struggles, there's stuff like that. So what was your childhood like?
Yeah, well, thank you, Gary. I think adversity has always been a part of my life, right? And I think, in conversations like this, I always try to provide value, right? In general, but specifically with an audience and, having conversations with people. So I always try to provide value. And I really feel like adversity has always been a part of my life. I, grew up with a very low resource and very low resource family. I mean, I always sort of kept it real with myself, meaning I've been a dreamer and a marathon thinker, but my feet have always been on the ground, right? I've never lied to myself about the position that I was in or whatever, right? So, my mom crossed the border while she was 7 months pregnant.
Oh, wow.
Right? So she crosses the border 7 months pregnant. And again, when I talk about adversity, think about that, right?
That was you? That she was during that 7 months?
She was, yeah. So she crossed the border. I was in her belly, 7 months pregnant. So from the jump, that was tough, right? And obviously I have huge respect for my mom and love. I understand what she did and the risk that she was taking, right? Because, 2 months, and I would think about that, right? And I think about this all the time.
Right.
2 months, because I have siblings that live in Mexico. 2 months, and the life that I live versus the opportunities they have are so different. So that, sort of sets the ground for then the responsibility that I feel to make sure that I take fully advantage of the opportunities that I was given. But not only that, so she, crosses the border. I'm born in the United States. But even then, she obviously had to hustle. She was a maid at Circus. So, because she worked 2 jobs, so she was a maid in the morning and then she cleaned commercial offices at night, right?
Okay.
I mean, so, again, saw her on the weekends. One thing that I love and, we can sort of get into is she would come home after a good day at Circus and she would get a $10, $20 tip. And she would say mijo, today I got a $20 tip. Let's go out for ice cream, right?
Right.
So now when I stay at hotels, I always make sure that I leave a good tip because I feel like I'm doing that to another version of myself. There's another woman that's working really hard that is going to potentially treat her family. So again, kind of coming for a circle. But yeah, grew up in Vegas, half Mexico, half Vegas. I did live in Mexico for a little bit. that kept me so grounded because I remember like there was times that I would be there for the summer basically because my mom had to provide for us, had to put food on the table. So working two jobs and having kids that are free for the summer,
Right.
like she needed childcare, right? So she would send us to Mexico with my grandparents, and I mean some of the best memories are in Mexico. So it kind of created this very like yes, I'm obviously very American, but I'm also very rooted in Mexico, and I have love and respect for the struggles that Mexicans go through. So I had really identified with both. I think that sort of set the standard for kind of who I am as a person. I'm happy to answer any other questions, but yeah, I mean my upbringing, man, it was tough.
But then that's interesting because now you have your own kids. Now you got to pass on, like obviously you got a work ethic that you built
Yes.
through watching struggle
Yes.
of your parents. Like my parents are first generation immigrants too.
Yes.
And for me to make it to the high levels of MMA, my only formula was watching them work double shifts, working nonstop, and working those jobs. But now you obviously have created a very comfortable life to a point. And now how do you instill that in your kids? So because like you're well connected, I'm sure they're obviously not living how you grew up.
Yeah.
They're living a much, and obviously all of us in the next generation, we want our kids to live better than us. We don't want them to face the struggles that we went through. But then how did you make sure you impose that kind of ethic or like, just so they don't get lazy? Because me being a father of just a 1-year-old right now, I know I'm going to be right behind you because I've seen that your kids are more grown up. So you're in those stages that I think about that are going to come up now. How are you going to impose that? So they're not like, they're not just living off of you.
Yeah. So I think that's, what's that quote that, hard men make easy times, right? Like, and,
100%.
easy times make soft man, like, soft man make hard times. I think we can provide the same learnings, in my opinion, without the struggle, meaning the structure of responsibilities, right? Like teaching discipline, all of those things. A lot of times I feel like you and I had to learn that because it was almost a survival sort of mechanism, right? It was something that we had to do. However, there's a lot of good learnings in that, right? Like, so for example, Theo has a very entrepreneurial mindset. And
Was that because he sees you the way that you function and whatnot?
I would like to say yes, but I also think that like at some point they also, I'm big on leading by example, right?
Yeah, I know.
So like, I had a podcast, I like, side things or whatever it is, like they see it. So, he had these things where he asked me for $10 and, I said, what are you going to do with it? He said, well, I'm going to buy Spencer's, like these Spencer's that, have that smell. And he was like, but they're very limited. So, only a certain amount of like kids basically get to have them. So what he did, and, we had a conversation about it because though I love the mentality, it's not the right time to do it. But he then purchased $10 worth of Spencer's. And because some of them were like quote unquote rare, he resold them at school.
That was like our Pokemon card. Pokemon hustle.
So, I was like, okay, look, I love that, Theo, but like, how do we find something else that you want to do? Because, reselling at school when you're in second grade, like, let's not do that right now, especially in the school that he's in. Like, again, I don't want the principal to come and talk to me, but the mentality's there. So that's great. So how do I nourish that? But I think to answer your question is really about structure and structure with discipline and love, meaning I love explaining the why. So, we have, a calendar and I live by my calendar. So like we have a calendar, they have tasks and they are to check the task. And then we try to instill that, like delayed gratification. So like every task has 1 star, right? So these are things that in the morning, afternoon and evening.
Okay.
They know that they're, Theo's 10, Ella's 6 right now, 7. She just turned 7. So they have tasks that they do. And these are things that, again, they're not, scrubbing the toilet with a toothbrush. They're doing things that are going to help them and, become independent. That are going to help them, like do a little bit of chores because there's a dog and there's responsibilities with the dog, right? So like not handing them everything while like not taking away things. Because I have a bit of sometimes a disagreements with friends that like think that taking away from your kids or not giving them, I'm like, look, I'm working hard so they can have more than I did. So I don't want to take that away from them, but I just want them to be grateful and to sort of know the value of things. So I think it's very possible, you know, but a lot of it is, are you grateful? Do you take things for granted? How do you manage when you have some extra funds, right? Because like I'm big on, we have to lead by example. So like if I'm, you know, throwing money away, like my kids are gonna learn from what I do, not from what I say, right? So yeah, you know, when they hit 100 stars, they get to get either, you know, something that's for them, and also they're investing.
Right.
Like we got Theo on Charles Schwab, and he's investing in Roblox.
Nice.
You know what I'm saying? So like,
Roblox is solid, man.
right. So, you know, again, that's what I'm saying, right? So like in things that like, you know, I tell them like, okay, what is it that you believe in? Like, don't worry about me. Like, you know, you have time. What's something that you believe in, that or company that you like that's gonna be here for a while or whatever it is. So Roblox, but like, I mean, you know, I don't know about you, but having a stock at 10 years old,
Dude, that's wild. It's what I'm trying to do with my 1-year-old.
you know what I'm saying? Like that was not something that I had,
Yeah.
you know.
So you know what I mean? We always see it's like, I should have been buying a house when I was in my career, but you know what I mean? Or, Mom, why didn't you buy Apple stock back in 1987 when I was born? Like, you know, we kind of, that's another thing. Like your parents probably wouldn't have thought of that. Your mom wouldn't have thought of that.
So I think that it can be accomplished. I think that we can both give them a better life and set the next generation, right? Because that's the whole goal. Like, you know, I want Theo and Ella to like set their life, set their children. I'm sorry for a better life. We are, and I'm sure you are too. I am taking care of my parents,
Right.
and that is something that like I've promised myself. That's something that they're not gonna do. So even then, you know, again, I love my mom, I love my dad, but like putting my resources here, sometimes it's a setback from like pushing forward. So, you know, again, like having them not worry about us, and then, you know, basically us be that platform that just launches them like, hey man, like, you know, they have some things that they don't even know yet, and they're not going to know, and I'm not going to tell them about it until they need it. And then, but I want them to work hard for, you know, what they want first, and then, you know, everything else will be those.
That's awesome. So I noticed that like, so I came across one of the videos on your Instagram.
Yeah.
And you were talking to your daughter about holding space.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
And that was really interesting because I don't have a daughter, I have a son. But what I found interesting was your son was also in the background.
Yes.
Like obviously he's gonna look around like, you know, he's gonna be shocked about whatever. But you having those conversations, like, it's a really cool. Well, first of all, you sharing it with everybody else, I think is really cool. It made me think a lot. Like, would you like? It's a very different conversation where you're gonna have with your son, but it's cool for him to witness that conversation, right? So, do you handle things differently with your daughter compared to your son, and the way that, like, you know, how you're saying that your son, you got him invested in stocks like that? Are you passing on the same thing?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, some things, yes, because there are non-gender things.
Yeah.
But there are other things that, like, I mean, you know, I think my fiance Katie has, you know, done an amazing job at like, you know, communicating some of these things and having some very open conversations about like the way we, as males, we take over space. And sometimes we don't.
I know that was really interesting to listen to because I had to assess myself. I was like, do I do that? And you're right.
Yeah,
You were
sometimes
right.
you do that without even knowing, right?
I think it was a male.
You know, especially like if you're like a natural leader and you're a go-getter and you're a doer, like you just take over, right? So like I want Theo to hear those things because I think the responsibility is twofold. I want to make sure that I raise a son that's, you know, one, cares for himself, values himself, doesn't, because, you know, again, like I was also raised by, you know, Mexican father who, like, you know what I'm saying? Like
They're much like an Indian father, right?
yeah, like, you know, like we sacrifice ourselves and, you know, which, and again, like I'm a provider and a lot of nourisher, like all these things, but you also have to like value and give that sort of love to yourself. That's where it all starts, right? In my opinion. So I think it's important for Theo to hear it and to like the conversations with Theo is you have to create space and or not take space away from your sister. And, you know, whether it's, you know, discomfort or like, hey, Theo, like, you know, can I was talking to Ella in that video, like, you know, she's 6 or she was 6 at the time, but like, hey Theo or Daddy, like, can I have some privacy, please? If she, if she wants to go in her room or whatever it is, like, and I need to be able to, I need to teach her that that is okay, that she is respected. So then, later on when she's a teenager or whatever it is, and a boy doesn't do that, she sees that like that's not okay.
Another
Right? So,
powerful
like,
lesson that kind of like it grows. It's like you planted that seed,
yeah.
and now that and especially for your son to witness it,
Yeah.
it's so interesting.
Yeah, it's very interesting because I feel like I am both very like traditional and in a sense of like, raising them and like, at work ethics and all these things, but also like mindful in the way of like I don't want Theo to sacrifice himself, and a lot, he will do these things because he's a boy, and sometimes I don't know. Again, I don't not trying to gender like everything, but there are some things that he's like, whatever Ellie wants. And I'm like, no, Papa, like, what do you want? Like, you can choose, you guys can have two different things. So it's important for him to be like, it's not everything about like, well, she's a girl, so she should get, you know what I'm saying? But, and also Ella to like not allow Theo to make the decision. So again, very early, you have to just, right now, I think you said it perfectly, is right now it's just about like planting the seeds, right? Because they don't really understand a lot, but like just planting the seed and leading by example, and then hoping that later on as we continue those habits, like it really sets in of like I deserve space, and I deserve and my feelings are valid, and my feelings matter, and I am important. I could also hear your perspective.
Right.
It's not about just me, and my feelings is not like one thing that we say is like, let's talk about what happened, and then let's talk about your feelings.
Gotcha.
Because sometimes the situation is very different. How we feel about something is not actual the reality, right? He did this, okay, that's the fact. It made me feel like he meant.
Well, that's cool that
You
you
know?
taught them expression like on board stuff,
yeah,
and then like that they could.
Work in progress. I mean,
Of course, it'll work in
it's a
progress,
lot.
but these are the things that a lot of parents will totally forget to do. Like it's not that they'll forget; they won't see the importance of it. You saw the importance of it, and that's a beautiful thing.
Yeah.
Sorry, because me just being a father now, I'm trying to see and I think that's why I wanted to sit down with you so bad, because I've wanted to have these conversations with you because you're this high functioning entrepreneur. Like I don't even know how you have time for today, but you're also this father at home. You're engaged, or
Yeah, my fiance. Yeah.
and so like, and you have to balance all this. So how do you find that balance? Like, how do you find that balance between, like, today you probably have 10 events to go to,
Yeah.
but then also having time for your kids and
Right.
how do you figure that out?
Yeah. So I mean, something that I've always been. It's interesting because we talk about balance, right? And I think what I focus on is being present, because my thing is when I'm working, I am working, and I don't feel guilty that I'm not a father, right? Because I need to provide, and you know what I'm saying, like all these things, and then I explain these things to them. So like I am present. If I'm working, I'm present. If I'm a father, I am a father.
Okay.
And I am not
Like,
working.
is your phone away? Like, are you handling
Yeah,
stuff?
I mean, as best as I can, right? Like when I'm a father, if I'm, taking Theo and Ella to their soccer games or volleyball games, like I am there as a father. So, and again, like obviously I'm also grateful to work for a company that respects that, because, they see like, I'm big on like numbers don't lie, right? Like performance is there. And if the performance is there and I need X amount of time to be a father, then, again, like, so it's not like I don't juggle multiple things at a time. It's more about like what is a task right now, and again, very like my personality, doing that to the best, and then once that's done, what's the next one, and then do that to the best of my ability. I like, as sure, like, do I deal with some of the largest resorts? Like I have MGM Resorts, right, which is the largest employer in Nevada, right, the largest casino resort properties in Nevada. But I also know that we have to put sometimes our own sort of like ego aside. If for whatever reason I'm watching a soccer game on a Saturday, the world is not gonna burn, right? The world, things are not gonna end. Like things are not. It's not. And if it's that serious, there are more problems there for me to worry about. You know what I'm saying? So like it's okay. It's okay. It's 1 hour. It's whatever it is. Like the day that we have, it's okay for me to be a father and be present. So I think that's probably one of my biggest strengths of just focusing on the task at hand and doing it the best that I can. Because on days where like I'm going from 8 in the morning till probably 2 in the morning tonight,
Yeah.
like I have to be there, and that's okay. And what I explain to them is, the vacations and the Disneyland trips and all these things. Like,
That's
I love you guys, but like, this is also, it's so they understand that.
It's like you probably have a certain routine that you follow every day that they probably see also. So what's a routine for you? And like, how's your morning start? Like,
Yeah. So I'm an early riser, right? And I
what's an
think
early riser?
so. I'm like a 5:30, right?
Oh, okay.
Early riser. I'm up. We're based out of New York, so sometimes one of my favorite times of the day, because when you think about, I'm a father and I am a professional, but like I also need some time for myself.
I've noticed that too. Since becoming a father, that 4 to 5 area seems like that's the time everyone's sleeping.
Correct.
Nobody, that's your hour. If you sleep in, you miss that hour. It's weird. It's like all fathers say it. For like bad time, nobody can say nothing. You go work out, you can do whatever. You get to think to yourself. I don't want to see.
Yeah.
It's really interesting because I never valued 4 a.m.s or 5 a.m.s. Hell,
Sure.
just a year ago, and you're way deeper in the road.
Yeah, and honestly, it's one of my favorite moments because I get to wake up early. I go to the gym.
Right.
I come home, make myself breakfast, coffee, whatever it is, and I am there with peace on my own. You know what I'm saying? So like that's like waking up early and then go upstairs and wake the kids up. Or now they've started, which I love, and this is something that maybe you can share too. Once you start creating structure, like structure, as we know, like science shows, like it's huge for kids. So they're saying like, I used to wake them up and walk in and say like good morning, and they're like, Daddy, like we don't want you to wake us up. We're gonna set our alarm, and so they set their clothes, that they're gonna wear on their own the night before. Their alarm goes off, and like, I mean, they're both great. They wake up, they get dressed, brush their teeth, brush their hair. They go downstairs, basically ready for the bed.
Is that because they saw you do that, like laying your clothes out?
So I actually think it's a structure because we gave them tasks and setting their setting their clothes out at the end of the night, and then they also started to love independence, and they saw how like they can, like, I think children want to also, like, if they need it, we're always there, of course. But like they want to know that, like, they don't want to be coddled. You know what I'm saying? Like there's power in, like, I could do this by myself, and obviously providing reassurance of like when they first started, they were like, oh, dude, that's a great fit. That Theo's got like some fashion that I don't know, where he got it from, but like, yeah, he's like a pretty swaggy kid. So whenever he got dressed or sang for Ed, like, man, dude, like that's a cool outfit, man, good job. Like, so that reassurance gave him like the love for like, well, I want to do more. What can I do by myself? And now they're like, I'm always like, hey, like, do you need help? Nope, I got it. Okay, cool. And as a father, like, and you'll learn this, that's tough.
It's tough.
Because I think sometimes we also fall in love with, especially if you have maybe similar personalities like we do, you fall in love with people needing you, right? And me being able to help, like, also provides me value selfishly. So I need to detach that value from like, hey, they're thriving, they're doing things great, man. Like, they don't need you, and that's okay. It sucks. It's
Yeah, that's like a weird chapter, right?
But I remember how happy I was. I remember how happy I was that there was a cook, a cashier, a server, people that I was helping provide for their family. And that moment, that's when I knew, like, one of the moments that I was like, yeah, I don't want to live a life that's not like this. You know what I'm saying? I don't want a cushy, I don't want, like, I really, like, that's when I learned that, like, that I thrive on the high performance, you know what I'm saying? So
Is that why you think you didn't just like settle in that, or like, you could have been bartending, you could have, like, I know bartenders make good money here.
Yeah, of course,
right?
They do.
When you wanted to excel you want to just keep elevating.
Yeah.
Is that just a fire that was just
100%?
that was always?
Yeah, I really do, and I still do, and I think maybe some of the things that we have, some the personality of someone that's like high performance is it's almost never enough. Like, meaning, and it's not about the money, right? Put the money aside.
Right.
It's like challenge. Challenge is the goal. I want bigger challenges. When I manage a small team, I wanted to manage big properties. Now that I manage bigger properties, I want to manage states. You know what I'm saying? So it's like it's just this hunger for growth, and also I'm big on sending the elevator back down, and specifically to everybody, but specifically like I think about this. Somebody believed in me. Somebody I like. There was this gentleman by the name of Kevin Vanegas who kind of put me onto the supplier side, honestly. So like I want to do that for people. I want to seek people that are hungry, people that maybe are overlooked, but have that like hunger, that grind, the work ethic, and I want to be able to help others and sort of again lift the community. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, I mean, I think I am driven by all of those things.
So when you're building out a team, what are you looking for? And like obviously
I mean, yeah, I think one, especially in Vegas,
yeah.
like you have to be
So
hospitable driven,
right.
because like in Vegas, as you know, is very much about like who do you know, but not in a. I'm not about like I don't want to know people in a like top layer way, right? Like
right. You want to
if you care, if someone asks the right questions, all those things, like that's who you want, because ultimately that tells me like there's a great book called Unreasonable Hospitality that I recommend, every Vegas professional reads. But there's something about like genuinely caring about that person's experience, that person's relationship, and that's only going to bring success to you in everything that you do. That person will then, by word of mouth, will speak great things. Like, how many times like in the most humble way possible, how many times people have asked like, hey, like, do you work with Sam, like, or whatever, and they'll come back to me like, bro, like, all these accounts and all these buyers or whatever it is, man, that everybody loves you. And like, I'm like, I've always made sure that the value is there, not to take advantage, to always think about the high road and long term, and again, like hospitality first. But sure, there are other things in sales and experience, but like I think someone that actually has a passion for it,
Right.
like I think that's one of the top three things call it that I would ask for.
If you were to leave this industry, is there any other industry you would jump into
Yeah.
that you think your skills, like obviously all your skills that you have, that you can just go?
Yeah, I mean, I think in a way there, I found there are people like me in many different industries, whether that's, sports partnerships, or, what I'm saying? Like,
Right.
'cause we sponsor events, we build events, we bring brands to life. Like there's a lot in others. I don't know that I see myself leaving, because selfishly, it's like, I'm not done. You know what I'm saying? Like my mark is not done.
Right.
So, eventually, again, I'm obviously like open to or whatever, but something that I would like to do is I like to launch my own spirit brand.
I was actually going to ask you that if you would launch your.
Yeah, for sure. Like there's I, through the pandemic, created a business plan, like a brand, and like, I mean, everything sort of mocked up, but like, I mean, I think that's definitely one of my goals to launch my spirit brand, which when you think about the challenge, right? Once you're done building other people's brands and companies' brands, like the next challenge is
Starting your own.
can you do it for yourself? You know what I'm saying? Like,
So you were saying during COVID, you built out a plan during that time. It's really interesting because I noticed entrepreneurs during COVID time didn't settle.
right.
You know what I mean? Like even certain professionals like LeBron James practicing every day, but we didn't see it. Right? Like for myself, I learned the stock market inside out. I started day trading because fighting was canceled for who knows how long it was going to be canceled.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, I'm back in Canada, sitting in my kitchen. My day's empty now. Instead of doing 3 a day, sleeping, eating, training, and because that's interesting. Like, how do you think that time was used for yourself? Like, is that what you did? Like, were you able to utilize that time? Or what did you do during that time? Because it's always interesting. I ask certain people, some people were on FaceTime all the time, right? On party apps and stuff like that, staying in touch. Because when I got home, I was like, my wife's like, oh, we finally get to spend all that time we'd missed out on, because they're always away in training camps in Vegas. Well, I'm like, no. I gotta work. There's something here. I gotta make something up. 6, 7 months from now, people are gonna start popping out and be like, this is what I did when the whole world shut down.
Yeah, I think it's, again, I'll speak for myself. My personality is I like to stay busy and purposeful. So I found purpose is the easiest way. And that purpose is also spending time with family, right? And sort of I think we realize how little we need, right? How little we need, how precious that human interaction is because everybody was isolated. So like hanging around with friends or whatever, it's like we saw that. Um, but it also motivated me because I always feel like there's opportunity and in hard times there's opportunity and great times there's opportunity. So like you just have to find that. But it kind of allowed me to, because I didn't stop working. Like, I was fortunate to be kept on while
Did it change your industry? Like, so a lot of industries change, right? A lot of people start working from home, not going to offices, or did it change your?
Yeah, very much so. I think, I mean, especially, people say, uh, people drink in times of good and people drink in times of bad. And, like you were saying, like, I mean, spirits freaking like blew up, right? The consumption during COVID was a lot.
Yeah.
But I think it also changed in the sense that like we now value more of that like smaller community. Really, like, I mean, think about it, like cocktail bars and lounges became more popular because you can have a conversation. People, maybe took for granted like the lack of communication that was happening in these like massive nightclubs or whatever, right? So like smaller, like loungy, like, like those things are really thriving, especially in Vegas. When you look at downtown, like there's so many amazing places. So it definitely did. And I think also like right now we're also dealing with the fact that people are not consuming as much. Or,
The next thing I was going to ask you was like, do you notice that?
Yeah,
Like, you
absolutely.
being in that field, are you noticing nightlife? Like, is it dying down more? Are people not drinking as much?
Yeah.
Are you guys going into more mocktail situations now? Like, are you?
Yeah, so I think it's more, I think the non-alcoholic sector of like non-alcoholic spirits is growing by a lot. So I think people are, they still want to socialize. And whether, I mean, I've gone to a lot of restaurants where they have a great like mocktail program and it's served and you still get that sort of, showmanship from the bartender,
Right.
but there is no spirits in there. And venues can still charge 12, 15, $18 for a great, not ginger ale and grenadine or whatever it is, but elevated basically. So I see that there's basically a big shift in consumption. I think the younger demographic is also not into like flexing, right? Like it's less about the how many bottles are you parading through the club and more about like connecting with one another. Like, which honestly, like I actually love that.
Yeah, of course.
Like that it's we're kind of resetting. Maybe we're resetting the consumption level.
You think that's post-COVID that's what started?
I really do. Yeah, I think so. I think that's when we saw it, because after COVID, everything opened up. Like I think people were like, we're drinking a lot during COVID. So yeah, I think that definitely helped. Which again, like I don't see it as a bad thing. Like I think drinking responsibly and like again socializing, sure, toasting to celebration, but everything within moderation, basically.
That's great. Like, and there was one quote I saw on your Instagram. It was macro mindset, micro executions. Talk about that, because you being such a high entrepreneur, there's obviously something very powerful in that, right? And the fact that you have such a big picture mindset, but it's the little things that you're like, how important that is.
Man, I mean,
And I guess that goes back to your morning routine,
right?
because it's the way you propel these little things. And you were talking about your kids, them seeing those little things. And
Yes. I think it's like brick by brick. And, like I mentioned in the beginning, I've always been a dreamer, right? Like, and I've always wanted more, but I've focused on what do I currently have control of.
Right.
Like, I used to sell cupcakes in Mexico. My aunt would make cupcakes and she would put them in a bucket and she'd be like, do you want to go sell them? I said, yeah. So I knocked on doors. The first time I knocked on the door was so like, I was embarrassed and whatever it is, but I knocked on the door and they saw this young kid like that wanted to sell something. Then they gave me some money and I was like, okay, like how many more doors? So then I think I made like maybe, 2 blocks or whatever, and they were sold out. So like, it was more about like, I knew that I wanted more, but it's one door at a time, one bottle at a time. That is how we build things.
all those things led to what you were.
Yeah. and also though, like that big picture mentality that's big for me because I do not want to, and if that's something that is very easy to do in Vegas, I don't want the lifestyle, the industry to get to my head. You know what I'm saying? Because
Gotcha.
it also goes away very, very fast.
Okay.
Right? So it's like, that macro mentality, big picture mentality. I'm trying to, I already have the place that I'm gonna retire. I already have, like, you know what I'm saying? Like I'm trying to set myself up for the future, but waking up, every day in the morning, starting the day, getting body movement, getting myself healthy
Right.
is how every day is how I'm gonna get there when I'm whatever. You know what I'm saying? Like
Right.
hopefully it's earlier than later. But yeah, it's so important to me. So teaching that to the kids and everyone, it really, like, again, it's just it's more of a mindset. You have to have that, in my opinion.
Awesome. Yeah, there was another quote. So I was creeping her whole profile. So bad. There's one that was really interesting to me because I think I know what you're trying to say here. You're like, life feels like a dream lately when you come from a different world. You're always waiting on the other shoe to drop. It takes a while to accept you are where you belong. So speak on that. Like, is that you kind of saying it's almost like an imposter syndrome you're kind of dealing? Because that's why that related to me so much. Like sometimes you're in positions, even worse for me. Some like, it's like I don't have to be like I deserve to be here sitting across from you, but it's more like how did I get this position? Or
I know, but that's also something that we have to work through, right? Because we do.
Right.
We deserve what we have.
Right.
We have worked for what we have. When I like the teachings sometimes are dual-sided because it's interesting, and I'd be curious if you feel the same, as your kid, as your son grows, but like I just told my daughter that it's okay to take space.
Right.
Like I need to also, because there's so many times, like, the place that I was at yesterday, right? Like, I mean, the people that are there are very like, high demographic, and like I've been in rooms with, high executives or whatever it is. And I mean, if when I talk about, like, I was a kid selling cupcakes, you know what I'm saying?
I
Like,
think that's where it comes from. That imposter syndrome is that we come from a place where they wouldn't expect us to get to the places like, seeing our parents struggle.
yes,
It's like now we're in these rooms and stuff. It's like, do I deserve this?
isn't that insane? So, one of the times that we're in Guadalajara, my grandfather, who, again, I mean, God bless him, he said, there's a place that has, like, fancy restaurants basically. And he's like, when you get older, you should go to school. You should learn to be a chef. And so you can work at one of those restaurants.
You'll work
you know?
on it.
And I think about all the time, because I think about, to him, that was success.
To work there, not to eat
To work there, right? To work there. And mind you, again, like years later, like when we opened the restaurant here, like, and sometimes I dine at some of these amazing restaurants, and we do all these things, and it's like, imagine that, like my grandfather, who had obviously a very different upbringing, who the opportunities were different. Like he that's what he saw as success. So yeah, and there's a lot of time. I mean, not lately, but when I was coming up, like being Hispanic in this industry, like there was a lot of times that I would show up for a meeting, especially early on, that I would show up for meetings in these big resorts, and when I would show up, they're like, "Oh, are you here to interview?" Right? Or here, whatever, like, and then they found out like the company and the business that I was there to do, and then the energy changed, right? So it's like, it's a twofold. I think it's a little bit about the maybe environment that does, because I could tell you that people in my position don't look the way I do, right? There was one time this past year that I had a conversation with someone, and the director, beverage director, the VP, marketing director, and myself were all Hispanics.
Oh,
wow. And I went to this meeting, and I'm looking around, and I was like, I just want to say something. Like, I love this. And again, like, obviously I do business with everyone, but I'm just saying, from a representation piece, like that is the one time that I've witnessed that in 13 years of like or more. Like I started in 2016 in this industry, but bartending before. But anyways, like like think about that. That's the first time. Most of the time, I'm the only colored person there, right? So like to that quote, like it's tough because yeah, you feel like when are they gonna tell me that I'm not supposed to be here?
Is it something you've handled now? Like you don't have it? Because I noticed I still have it. I didn't even know there was a term for it till like, I think just like a couple years ago. I'm like, I thought I was the only one like that, because I feel like the higher level I'm kind of reach, the more that guy on this shoulder is always like, dude, you shouldn't even be here. Because I'm from a small town. My parents are first generation immigrant. I'm like, I don't even know how to explain a lot of the things I do to my parents because they don't get it.
Right.
Like I got the Hall of Fame for MMA in Canada.
Yeah.
And I don't even know how to explain it because my dad don't even know how to explain it to them. Or when we go on trips, or I was managed by Conor McGregor's management when I came out here and all that, I didn't even know how to like really share it. Now, a lot of times I go into rooms, I'm like, dude, people like me aren't supposed to be here.
And there's almost a little bit of guilt, right? I mean, at least
No, yeah, that's very true.
there's a little bit of guilt because so my mom was deported when I was 15 years old.
Okay.
Right. So I was here. I lived with my brother, my older brother, for a while. So my mom was deported, and she and my step siblings, went back to Mexico, basically. So I have both a sense of responsibility and a sense of guilt because I am in a position and places and the experience in like all these things, right? Like and as much as I help and all these things, they will never experience what I'm experiencing, and I have to live with that. So that's tough. And also, like you said, it's tough to be like I belong here and I should be here. And again, like that's why like therapy and all these things, like we have to like unknot those things because we do, and I know that I do, but I also honor sort of those feelings because it's tough. And I think one thing that I'll say to anyone that's watching, the more I get into these big rooms with these big executives and all these, the more I realize that like we deserve to be there. We outperform them. Like there's nothing, there's no magic there. They don't have anything that we don't. You know what I'm saying?
Do you have that talk with yourself, or you just kind of like notice it?
I mean, I think, yeah, in some ways I do. In other ways, I just sort of like realize through conversations. And again, like, not trying to throw shade to anyone, but we're all just humans. You know what I'm saying? Like, we're all just humans. Everyone makes mistakes. Sometimes you think some of the brightest people, need help too. You know what I'm saying? So like, now I think working on that, like working on like telling yourself and really believing that like you're supposed to be there, that you bring so much value. And again, like I'm big on numbers don't lie.
Right.
And even sometimes looking back at numbers, my performance versus whatever it is, like, and even then sometimes I don't believe it, right? So again, it's work in progress. What I love though is that my kids are not going to be that way. Because my kids, they're going back to how we started. The idea is put them in the room, have them be in the room.
So
Again,
always feel like they're there.
correct.
I always feel
You belong. You've been there. You're gonna earn it. You're gonna work hard. You're like all these things, right? But you belong in those rooms, right? So it's a different mindset that I'm trying to teach them, and I'm also working on my own. But yeah,
It was so interesting, the glass ceilings you're kind of breaking. Like we're talking about a mother that crossed the border, worked as a maid as her dessert case. And then now here you are running all that. And now you're trying to put your kids in executive. You're trying to make them feel comfortable that this is where you're supposed to be at all times to belong here. It's absolutely crazy.
Yeah, man. It's again, that's the dream to instill the adversity through different learnings, but also the being grateful and how do we inspire them to have that fire, right? And that's in my opinion, by not like over giving, and like again, like there's some Christian, but like they're not gonna know. I'm not gonna let them fall. So kind of like what you do with your kid, right? You're not gonna let them fall, but like you want them to walk and you want them to move and you want them to climb or whatever it is. But like, I don't know how you are because I'm kind of a helicopter parent. When they would go playgrounds,
That's what I'm wondering. Which one I'm going to be. I'm wondering which one I'm going to be because
they started climbing, like, rock climbing or, to a certain level or whatever. And I would let them do it because I've always encouraged, but like, I was always like, so, but they don't feel it, but they're not going to drop. You know what I'm saying? So it's that similar mentality with life in general. Like, you're going to be okay, but like, you don't know that.
Yeah.
Right? You're not going to know that yet.
Yeah. Before my son was born, I remember I had like this cold kind of like, I'm going to sleep train my kid. And like, one of the sleep training things is you got to let them cry it out.
Yeah.
I can't let my kid cry for more than 1 minute. Actually, my kid doesn't even sleep in the crib. He sleeps in the middle between me and my wife. And that's when I get the best sleep. Even if he's sleeping in his crib pen, I'm like, I don't sleep well. I need him. Like, I got rid of that plan so quick because my heart and chemistry just changed completely. Right? Now I'm just like, I don't think I'm a helicopter parent, but I'm also not, he's also one right now, right? It's also, so we'll see when that.
And isn't that interesting how, because I was the same way.
Right.
Because the way maybe
the entrepreneur mindset, you're like cutthroat, you got to be out there, you got to do that.
But then you're like, okay, it's tough. See, hearing your kid cry and, just like, when you put them in their crib and they're just crying and like putting their hands up for you and you're not going to be there. Like, bro, my thing is like, again, as a age independent structure, absolutely all of those things. Also, we don't get them for a long time, right? There's gonna be time where they're gonna, and again, I was just telling you about Theo wanting to like walk to school and stuff. There's gonna be a time where they no longer need you. Yeah. So like, I'm big on letting them be kids. Right. Like let the kid be a kid. Let the kid be. You know what I'm saying? Like it's okay to love and to protect and to nourish.
Because our parents didn't follow any of that. Yeah. Or like I'm pretty sure my mom had me in the middle of the bed and turned out fine.
Right.
Like, you know what I mean?
Right. Yeah. Or like people. Yeah. Exactly. Like, trust me. He's not gonna be 35 years old wanting to sleep in you.
Exactly.
That's for sure. You know what I'm saying? So, I was reading about like the fact that when they go to your bed, in the middle of the night, because they have their own rooms, they're not seeking like what they're seeking is trust. Like subconsciously, and again, there's so many theories and so many ways, so many scientists and doctors talking about different things. But the one I was reading was like, they want to know that if they come to your bed, you're going to be there for them. Gotcha. So, a lot of times, like, parents or friends are like, well, no, like if they come, like I send them back to the bed. I'm like, okay, but like, again, I've always been like, hey, like I'm here for you. Mm-hmm. Is everything okay? You had a nightmare. Let's talk about it. And then once they fall asleep, take them back to their bed. You know what I'm saying? But like, it was important, like very interesting to me how like the doctor was explaining it of that is how the bond and trust builds, that your parent is going to be there for you and they're not going to send you away to deal with your own emotions and feelings on your own. Like subconsciously at 5, 6 years old, you're not like thinking about that, but those are the like
that's
wiring that is happening. Which again, I thought it was so interesting because I was like, it made me feel good about like, dude, if they're more than welcome to come in anytime they have a nightmare or anytime they're having trouble sleeping. Like, I want to be there for them. Mm-hmm.
Were your parents like that though? Like where like right? It's like interesting like how like mentally checked in you are as a parent. Like after like our parents were never like this, right? Like I was left with my cousins all the time while my parents were double shift and stuff. But for some reason we're kind of navigating so different.
So yeah, of course. So I'll tell you something. My dad dropped me off at MAPS, right? Mm-hmm. So when I was going to boot camp, he shook my hand and he said, if you don't come back with the Marine Corps uniform, don't come home.
That's hard.
Right? Hard, right? So okay. Yeah. I went to MAPS. I, got in, yellow footprints, shave your head. And that night, there's a quarter deck, a bunch of bunk beds, basically, 200, Marines or recruits, because we weren't Marines at the time. We were going through boot camp. And you could hear like sniffles, like you hear the cries of like kids that were like, I was 17, right? Yeah. 17 through, 20 something. And I was like, I don't have anywhere to go. I did not cry. Again, I also like probably wanted to because it was, scary moment. Like you don't know what's happening. You just got yelled at and whatever. But like I had no I didn't have that. I said, if I don't come home with the Marine Corps uniform, I don't like. I actually believe that, right? And if your dad tells you that, like, you gotta believe him, especially like knowing how hard he was.
Right.
So I mean, the mindset, to your point, is very different. I was not coddled a lot. Like, I got straight A's and came home with a smart card, is what we called it here, and I had like 25% off at the mall, right, which was like the maximum. So I showed it to my dad, and he goes, "Okay, good job. Next time I want you to do so good that they give you 50%." And I was like, "Dad, like, it's not like they're gonna create something new for me, It's like it's very, very different. So again, like, try to teach, and I think so. Also, something to say is like, I've forgiven my dad, right? Because his upbringing was very different. Like, I respect and love him, and like, I know that he was doing his best.
Right.
His best was just different than my best, but but look at what I'm doing, right? So like, and I hope that Theo does better than me, and so on and so forth. So
But had he not been that way, I don't even think you would have that.
Right.
Because I say that to my wife. Like, my wife's father is like the friend that I always wanted in my dad, but now I got him as like my father-in-law. But I always say to her, I'm so grateful that it was my dad, as hard as he was, because that's what lit that fire.
Yes.
All I saw was work ethic. We came from very simple beginning.
Yeah.
Wasn't any money passed down. Wasn't any like that.
Yeah.
I just knew he had to work to earn something.
Yeah.
He worked on the sawmills all his life, and I'm
for
like,
sure.
okay, and this is what I got to do, and whatever dream I got to do it in.
I got an award at school. I think it was like student of the year.
Yeah.
And he got a call from my teacher saying like, hey, bring him tomorrow, whatever. After school, my dad was like, no, we're building a wall around the house, which we were. So, again, like, he, answered telling my teacher like, hey, no, I'm sorry, we're not available. He's working with me. Boom. Like, so, but that's, we also, like, to your point, like, I really genuinely don't believe that I would be the person that I am today if it wasn't for those lungs. Could he have done it in a way that's like,
But that's how he knew, right?
Yeah.
But that's how he knew to do it, probably from the great grandfather, right?
for sure, yeah. And that, sorry to interrupt, but that's something that I think about, and we have to have grace, because if that's what he did, I can only imagine what his dad truly did. So it's, we're all humans. We're doing our best. I mean, that's trying our best.
So let me end on that then. Okay, let me ask you, what do you want to be remembered for? Like, obviously you're sharing stuff about your father. He's remembered for that. He's remembered for being this way to that way. What do you want to be remembered for as a father, as a businessman, as like what does Samuel want to stand for? Like, what is, at the end of the day, when it's all said and done?
Yeah, that's a
loaded
great
question.
That's a great question. And honestly, I think that's something that is something that we should think about, right? Like, and not in the sense of giving ourselves value because of the way we are, or like others view us, but being intentional about what we want to do. So I think a couple of things. I think as a father, I want to be a good father, right? Like, I want to be. I want to protect my children, provide for them, and coach and mentor them in a way that they feel both structure and love, right? Like, that's kind of like the goal as a father. I want to be able to, because those things are also coming. I want to be able to have the type of relationship with you and Emma that when they're 20, 30, we can have a conversation about the things that I did wrong, and they will feel comfortable sharing those.
Okay.
Like, I want to have that type of relationship.
Okay.
And as a professional, I think what I want to do is, I love Vegas. I want to be of value to Vegas and provide amazing events, partnerships, and like, be very genuine about what I do. At this point, it's not like, for me at least, at this point, it's not about the money, right?
Sure.
Because my family's provided for. That box is checked. What I want to do is, okay, if I'm going to be in an industry, if I'm going to be a part of a community, like, how do I make that community better than it was before I came in? Okay. So like, I think from that, like, Mark, in the sense of, having an impact on people's lives and creating memories that we can all look, because the cycle, again, we're going to be here. There was some OGs that have been here before us. So the cycle actually happens faster than we think, right? And helping, those that are on the come up, I think, for me, that will be very fulfilling. You try to do that.
Amazing, bro. It's amazing. Like you're somebody that I know I can probably go hours with you and just probably for some many conversations we're gonna have. It's been absolutely amazing, man. Just getting to know you finally, just taking into obviously I want a lot of fatherly advice in the situation and stuff because that's a big component of you, right? That's a big component of what I've seen, the businessman, the father. It's all what makes you who you are, right? And it's a beautiful thing how you have the balance and how you're so self-aware of the things you're doing as not just a businessman, but how you are the father to your son and daughter, and how you notice the upbringing you came back from, the forgivenesses, the things that made you who you are. It has been absolutely awesome.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it, and I appreciate you taking the time. And it's awesome to sort of see that. Like, I think one thing that I want to do is at times we share some of the highlights, right? But like being very not transparent, but like just being very genuine, I guess, with however it is that the communication is passed on in person or virtual, whatever. Because I like all those things. Like I feel seen. You know what I'm saying? Like when you're mentioning those things, and it makes me like it just reassures the plan, the whatever, all these things. But it's awesome because I think it also like I've had conversations like this with at the time with people that I admired as fathers. So like I mean, when we talk about the father community, these like our dads did not have conversations about being a father
Very much so.
with one another, at least, from what I know. You know what I'm saying? So it's important to like, there's this other community of, sure, do we want to do well? Do we want to provide for our families and be active, present fathers? You know what I'm saying? It's dope. So I love that we're having this conversation and that, other people, other, future fathers or fathers can hear this and be like, yo, like that is possible, and creating that community, within.
Because you definitely serve as motivation for me. Like, like I see you out here and you're doing your thing, but the way that you hold it all together also, like, there's levels and levels and levels, and you're reaching those levels, and me saying like, listen, it's all possible. It's all possible by just keeping start from something as simple as your morning routine to building it. Like you said, the micro executions, right? And from the macro mindset. And that's a beautiful thing, man.
Love it, man.
I appreciate you, bros. Thank you, man. Thank you so much for the time.
Of course.
That was beautiful. It was a fun year. Thank you.
Thank you.